All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Regan, and I'm the Vice President of Economic Development for the Greater Durham Chamber of Commerce. Great to be with you this afternoon. I think I'm meeting some of you all for the first time, as I'm quite new at the Chamber, starting in this role earlier this year in February, and we just moved to Durham a handful of months ago, so it's great to be with you. Been in economic development my whole career, and I've got some strong roots in the Triangle, so it's great to get back to the Bull City and be doing some important work in our community. I understand that some of my colleagues were on earlier this week, as we have been having midweek festivities all week, and some are with me today. And I want to make sure you guys understand that you can reach out to us anytime if you ever feel like we can be helpful to your organization. I also understand that we are currently cross-referencing the registration list with attendees in this session, so you guys will get some bonus points for attendance in the form of potentially receiving a digital gift card to a local business of color later this week, thanks to our friends at the Samet Corporation, who you will be hearing from later today. So I hope we have many lucky winners in the session. Now we're going to try and cover a lot in the next hour, including saving time for Q&A. So let's jump right into things. And again, feel free to put some questions or comments in the chat that we can hopefully address once the hour is wrapped up. So if we can transition to my presentation. As you guys know, chambers are membership organizations that plug into local, regional, state, national, and even international networks to help businesses and individuals grow and thrive. So what you see here on the screen is some of the organizations that we work with most closely, mainly at the local level, but also regionally. I hope what speaks to you on this slide is that even though the word Durham is prominently featured throughout, we also have strong partnerships with many of our critical regional allies, be it the perhaps RDU or the Research Triangle Park, Research Triangle Regional Partnership, RTA, the Regional Transportation Alliance, and the Triangle DEI Alliance. Regionalism is really our biggest competitive advantage in the Triangle. So it's great to be in the presence of so many of our regional partners, many of whom you will hear later today, like Danya Perry and Ray Trapp. So our county and our region continues to garner national attention for our regional talent, our low cost and ease of doing business, and our high quality of life. All that is leading to some tremendous economic development successes that we have had as a county and as a region just in recent months. Since this year, since the beginning of this year, we've had some tremendous good news in Durham County. You see that all represented on this slide. In sum, this represents 4,000 new jobs and over 560 million in capital and new capital investment. Both of these metrics are important, and they have important multiplier effects that create and induce additional jobs, opportunities, and taxes across a variety of industries. And through this process, many of the companies that we are attracting to Durham and helping to expand in Durham also commit to direct and indirect local partnerships that bolster the local talent and contracting pipelines that ultimately, because ultimately they're not coming here to change our community, but to be a part of it. So at a high level, I hope you guys understand, this is arguably the main point of today's session and this week, that with this tremendous economic development success and economic growth we're having in Durham and in the Triangle, this represents opportunities for your organization to benefit and also to succeed as well. I don't want you to think that this growth is happening in a vacuum, but instead it is leading to all manner of secondary and tertiary impacts and contracting opportunities for all of our businesses in the Triangle to benefit from. In addition, I'd like to just highlight a few kind of the primary nodes of economic development activity in Durham. So of course, it starts with us. It starts with our friends at RTP. The overwhelming majority of our economic development activity in Durham is going to be in the park or just on the periphery. We're very excited about some of the developments at the park. You're going to hear more about this from Ray in just a minute. But Hub RTP in particular, 2 million square feet of Class A office space, retail, restaurants, et cetera, is going to be a great amenity for us in the Triangle. Just a little bit north downtown, you guys are probably familiar with a lot of the office developments going on downtown, 555 Mangum, Roxborough Venable, Durham ID, lots of buildings going vertical, and of course the second phase of the ATC expansion. These are all creating new opportunities for companies, especially in the tech and life sciences space. And then lastly, north of downtown Durham, Trayburn Corporate Park is perhaps our most well-established industrial park in the county. You've got companies like Merck, Corning, Novo Nordisk, some of the biggest life sciences names in the industry, thriving up there in Trayburn. And just around the corner, there's a very promising opportunity called Eno Venture Park, which is about 160 acres of undeveloped land that is zoned industrial. So we're looking forward to capitalizing on that opportunity and making sure that there's ample quality of jobs for everybody in Durham County, no matter where you live. So as we transition here to Danya in just a moment, I want to make sure this point is very clear to everyone. I hope everybody already knows this, but it's worth reiterating. Diversity, equity, and inclusion has never been more prominent in the minds of corporate level decision makers, perhaps ever, at least since I've been doing this job. We are DEI, and the competitive advantages we have in the DEI space in the triangle are often the top things that companies want to talk about when they're meeting with me and evaluating their options in the triangle. The Chamber has worked directly with the now National Institute for Economic Development, Racial Equity Institute, Diversity and HR Solutions, NC Central, the county, the city, and other like-minded local and regional organizations for many years to make sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion aren't just shared values in the region, but are being woven into the fabric of everything that we do. And on that point, very recently, we hitched our wagon to our friends across the border there in Wake County at the Raleigh Chamber to partner around the Triangle DEI Alliance. We're so proud to be partners of that organization and of that initiative. And I'm very glad and very happy to introduce to you Danya Perry, who leads that initiative for the Raleigh Chamber. So I'll transition to you right now, Danya, and let you preach the good gospel about the Triangle DEI Alliance, and look forward to staying plugged in for the rest of the hour.
I love how you said preach the good gospel, bringing up the roots of my father being a preacher. So yes, I am a PK kid, but please do not judge me. All right, we are not all bad, despite what some of you all may believe. So excited. Thank you, Ron, so very much for the opportunity to share a little bit about this work. And one of the things that I love in your presentation was the word regionalism. You know, I am at the Raleigh Chamber, but we stood up the Triangle DEI Alliance, recognizing our partnerships, not just in economic development, but in all spaces that's trying to create a more equitable ecosystem. And a big part of regionalism is to talk about inclusion. Part of my work also outside of the DEI Alliance is how do we help to really enhance and think about inclusive prosperity, especially when we think about all the growth that Ryan just shared with you within our region. And what does inclusive prosperity look like? When we talk about equity, it's truly about how do we build bridges or remove barriers to ensure everyone has an opportunity to be a part of the success of this region. And so the history of the Triangle DEI Alliance ultimately started with a conversation around companies that were ideating about how do we enhance and accelerate the work. We started the DEI Alliance, launched it in March of 2019 with this vision that we had, is that we were ultimately wanting to lead the effort to make the Triangle region the most diverse, equitable, and inclusive business environment in the country. And a part of that, honestly, is not just about the statement. We recognize and acknowledge that we have to move from statement to strategy. And a part of that is making sure that all voices are heard. For the most part, our work, we tend to spend most of our time in two spaces. One, how do we support existing industries that are companies that are in the region that are looking at enhancing or starting their own DEI journey? And then also, how do we support an ecosystem that then supports historically underrepresented businesses? So within those two categories, and over a thread that intersects both is advocacy. How do we ensure that we are advocating both on the state and national level to make sure that one, DEI is sustained, and two, to make sure that when we talk about our marginalized or historically underrepresented businesses, making sure that they are top of mind when we talk about the region's growth. In our community, while we focus on large industries, we recognize that small business community is about 80% of our ecosystem. So that is always critical when we talk about the support building process. From being able to provide conversations and advanced conversations for our existing industries. We are on our 4th annual DEI conference. We've been able to bring really courageous conversations around different type of topics. Last year, or well, rather our last conference just ended, August 25th and 26th. We had over 1,000 practitioners engaged. We really truly believe that our company practitioners in this space need to increase not only their own fluency, but how do we increase the fluency of their colleagues and of peers and of the leaders within an organization. We convene DEI roundtables. That's again for our practitioners. We have courageous conversations, conversations that focus in on how do we advance race equity? How do we have conversations about corporate social responsibility? One of my favorite ones was back in June, where we brought in Opal Tometi, from one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matters, and also the CEO of Ben & Jerry's, Matthew McCarthy, who talked about corporate social responsibility and how the ice cream people made sure that they access their platform to talk about social activism. And then at the same time, with our existing industries, how do we support our CEOs and making sure that we are helping to support and building inclusive leadership and strategy of building to make sure that we sustain this work. For the other bucket, again, is our work for how do we support our historically underserved businesses. We have a series in partnerships with entities like Wake Tech Small Business Center, in which we provide Black and Hispanic Business Momentum Series. It's a monthly seminar that we provide to enhance and support our businesses. We have a Pathways program at the Chamber, in which we take businesses that have graduated from our local accelerators and incubators, and we provide them hyper-intensive networking opportunities along with a free year-long Chamber membership to be able to show the value proposition of what we're doing. And then also the We Connect, which is how do we celebrate the uniqueness of our community. And that being said, I want to shout out and also get in a true celebratory fashion as we recognize and acknowledge Hispanic Heritage Month. Opportunities like that to talk about who we are, recognizing that we are moving post color blindness so that we see the value and we see the beauty that we all bring, not just necessarily ethnicity, but also in learning differences, neurodiversity, LGBTQIA+, all of those different elements. So with that, I know I said a whole bunch, but if you would like to continue the conversation about the DEI Alliance and the work that we're doing in supporting existing industries, the work that we're doing to support our underrepresented businesses, and also the work that we're doing around dismantling systemic racism, please reach out to me. I am here to help support. Again, I appreciate, Ryan, the opportunity to be a part of this conversation, and I am more elated to bring to the stage Ray Trapp, who's going to give you an overview of the incredible work that they are doing over at the RTP Foundation. Ray?
Hey, thank you, Danya, and thank you to Durham for having this great event and for celebrating Med Week. I think this is something crucial and something critical to the success of all the momentum that we have within the region, is to continue to focus on minority and women enterprises. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. All right, perfect. So as Danya said, I am Ray Trapp. I am Vice President of Strategic Engagement for the Research Triangle Foundation. And just for a level set, RTP is, at its essence, 7,000 acres, 55,000 plus employees, and over 300 corporations. So as we've heard, and we talk about the growth in the region, and we also talk about the investments and major investments that have happened within this region and within the park specific. So if we look at this, I love to show this slide because this is a great year for any municipality. This is a great year for any city. This is a great year for any county. For anyone to have a year like this is amazing. But these numbers are for RTP proper. So that is 2020 to 2021, $4.5 billion in investment and 7,500 jobs. So as I said, that is an amazing year for anyone at any time. But then when you add on that is during a global pandemic, I think it makes it all that more impressive. And I think it makes it all that more exciting for the region. And when you look at the logos and you see Apple, you see Lilly, you see Grail, Fidelity with an announcement after announcement of opportunity, I think that these things mean hope. And when we talk about hope, the one thing that I never want us to lose sight on is sight of the fact that this opportunity should be available for any and everyone that calls this area home. So that's what we want to continue to push, that these opportunities and this hope is for everyone. When I talk about MWBE and MWBE progress for the Research Triangle Foundation, I always like to level set. So these numbers are amazing, but I want to say that we undertook this project at the foundation approximately 2 years ago. Looking at spending for the Research Triangle Foundation 2 years ago was less than 1%, meaning that every dime that we spent as a foundation, less than 1% of that went to Black American or Asian American, Hispanic American, American Indian, or white female-owned businesses. Atrocious, absolutely horrible. So our board, along with the staff here and our CEO, Scott Levitan, took it upon ourselves to correct that injustice, to correct that wrong. So we adopted the Durham County MWBE goal of 25% spending, and that is what we adopted. And I'm happy to say that as of the end of fiscal year 2021, for us, those are the numbers that are correct. So if you look at what we have, we didn't just get to the 25% goal, we exceeded it. So we got to 38.8% contracted MWBE spending. And so that in itself is something that I always like to highlight and something that I always like to point out on how being intentional and how making sure that you're working towards a stated goal of everyone being included. That's what economic development is truly all about. Now, when I show this, I highlight the MWBE firms that are included. So you see them all listed there, and I won't go into who they are. You see them, you see the names there. But I also say, as excited as I am about this, I also understand that there's work to be done. When we look at the number, and that large number is made up of white females, we understand that we have to continue to work harder to make sure that Black American business, Asian American business, and Hispanic American businesses, as well as American Indian businesses, are represented equally as well. So as happy as I am about this and as great as these numbers are, we truly understand that there's still work to be done, and we continue to push forward to make sure that we address these and hit these topics. Box yard RTP. Any complaint that I've ever heard from anyone that's worked in the park, there's always been that one chief complaint of, if I want to eat, I have to leave the park in order to do that. So for us at the foundation, this was our answer to that, and also to opening up the park to be more inclusive and to be a destination point for the community. In large part, for the 6 decades that RTP has existed, it's strictly been a place where people come to work and leave and go home. We want to change that. With Hub, that is our all-in project, which Ryan talked about, and we want to make sure that people see the proof that RTP is welcoming to the community and not just the place where you work. So Boxyard RTP is our first shot at that. That's 15 unique local restaurants and retailers, 40 upcycled shipping containers. Each one of these was a shipping container that was used, and we've recycled those and upped those and made them into what is Boxyard RTP. This is a $9 million investment. And when I say a $9 million investment, that is taken on by the foundation in this Boxyard RTP. The ROI, or the return for us, isn't in dollars and cents. The ROI for us is in the amenity that it provides, not only for the employees that work in RTP, but also for the community as a whole. So you see the great time, 4 days of programming, live music, and actually opening up and being that area that is strictly for the community and not just for RTP. So we look at the different corporations that are listed there that make up the vendors at Boxyard RTP, but I don't feel that this ever does justice when we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I like to show this because these are the faces of the folks that are actually in RTP Boxyard that are working there. Many of them, their first brick and mortar location. Many of them started out with strictly food trucks or doing pop-up vending at shows and at different fairs, but now they have a place to call their own. This is what equity and inclusion is about. When you look at this slide, we want this slide and we want the entrepreneurs that are in Boxyard to represent the community that it surrounds, the community that it serves. So you see that when you look at these faces. These folks, we took on the brunt of upfitting these cycles so they could focus on their product, so they could focus on being better entrepreneurs and making sure that their product was ready to go. So it's a partnership truly between us at the foundation and these diverse group of vendors that make up Boxyard RTP. Regional initiatives, and we've all talked about regionalism as we've moved through this today. Mobility and transit. We know that we'll continue to grow. This area will probably double in size in the next decade. So how do we stay above and ahead mobility and transit? How do we have a plan that works for everyone? We want to make sure that we're convening the folks that can answer these questions. We don't have the solution. It may be a mix of everything. It may be a mix of light rail, commuter rail, bus rapid transit, continuing to move ride sharing programs, but whatever it is, we need to figure it out. We need to figure it out so that that person that lives in East Durham has no problem getting to RTP to take advantage of the many opportunities that are available right here in the park. STEM workforce pipeline development. Again, making sure that everyone has a chance to see those logos and hear those announcements and feel that they can be a part of the workforce that's in the park. STEM education and making sure that Black and brown folks are represented in a workforce that traditionally has not been there for them is a chief concern and a chief initiative for me and for the foundation to continue to work that out. Inclusionary workforce housing. We all live here and understand and see the home prices continuing to escalate every single day. This is something that we have to stay ahead of. It does no good for us to have opportunities in Durham if you have to move to Alamance or Chatham, all great counties, but if you have to move away from Durham to take advantage of the opportunities because you can no longer afford to live here. So we have to start to address those things. The Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Collective, thanks to Danya Perry and all the amazing work that he's done with the Triangle DEI Collective, we started that same initiative here in the park with Danya's help to be an offshoot of the work that he's doing and also a partner and a collaborator. So the corporations within the park that make diversity, equity, and inclusion a top priority have the tools that they need in order to succeed. So it's not just a box check, but they understand what they're doing and understand how to move forward and truly have a DEI collective that works for the entire park. Last thing I'll touch on is our 2021 grant recipients for STEM RTP. And back to speaking about STEM workforce and pipeline development, we had an amazing program, STEM RTP. We brought underserved kids out to the park. They spent the day in the park and they got a chance to interact with STEM corporations based in the park. Due to COVID, we had to be flexible, one of the overused terms of COVID, but being flexible and being responsive and figuring out just what to do because we could not bring the children to the park. So what we decided was we sat back and said, okay, let's look at this program and let's make sure that we're being as intentional as we need to be as far as creating a STEM workforce pipeline and exposing underserved youth to STEM careers. So for us, that meant maybe we didn't need to be as involved as previous. So what we did, the money that we would previously put towards this one amazing day, we put out an RFP for nonprofits and for community organizations that were doing this work on a day-to-day basis, not just one day, but they are doing this work every day. They're on the ground in the communities, making sure that this STEM and pushing STEM is not something that just happens for one day, but that continuously happens. So there you see Code the Dream, Cramden Institute, The Pitch, which is a competition that with NCCU's College of Business and also the Fuqua School at Duke, joined together for a competition for Black student founders and also Women in C. These folks are in this space every single day, leading this charge. So we felt that it would be better to give these dollars that we normally would spend on this one day and allow them to leverage that funding to continue this work 365 days a year. Questions? I think there's some stuff in the chat, so I don't want to lose any of them if there are any questions in the chat. Okay. All right, so I think we addressed everything. Thank you all for this time. It is now my absolute pleasure to introduce someone that I look up to and that has been doing this work for forever and serves as a mentor to so many trying to move in this space, but Director Tammy Hall.
Thank you so much, Ray. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on with this esteemed panel today. Midweek has been just great as we celebrate here in Durham. We started on Monday, and this is just really a good opportunity for us to uplift and support our minority and women-owned businesses. I did see the note in the chat about our state hub goal, and so I appreciate all feedback, and I think it's welcome, and we embrace it. As I listen today, it is so encouraging to see that North Carolina is a trailblazer. We're a trailblazer in the efforts that we're doing collaboratively to ensure that our businesses and the workforce that we all know is so important for just the overall prosperity of North Carolina for diversity and inclusion measures. So thank you for all of your comments, and I will begin to share my screen and move us forward in the dialogue. So as we're talking today, and we're talking in my idea of creating a thriving hub program, here in North Carolina, we reference our diversity and inclusion business program as the hub program, historically underutilized business program. And what is this particular office in state government charged with? Well, we're charged with promoting diversity and inclusion in state government procurement and contracting. We have a number of other things that we're responsible for, to include the certification of our businesses that meet the criteria for hub. We own that responsibility, working very collaboratively with all of our partners throughout the state that operate hub programs. We also have a newly established small business enterprise program, along with support for businesses, business development, as well as our compliance to ensure that the agencies are following the directives of the governor. You know, today, as we've talked about a number of things, I think it's important for us to highlight and always find tribute in acknowledging the work of our Andrea Harris, who we lost about a year ago. The governor established Executive Order 143, which is really in her memory and to highlight her collaborative work that was being done here in North Carolina. The Andrea Harris Social, Economic, Environmental, and Health Equity Task Force was put together mainly to talk about some of the things we're discussing today: disparities in communities of color disproportionately impacted by COVID. What we know is that minority businesses were impacted wholeheartedly. Businesses of color in general were impacted. Many of them we lost in the midst of COVID, and we're still in the midst of COVID, but we are doing all in state government we can to minimize and ensure that these businesses can remain open the duration of the time and continue to contribute to our society in the valuable ways of which they have done so. So the work of this task force is ongoing. They're meeting every month to talk about strategies, ideas, what can we do better in state government? And if, you know, in my mind, I think one of the better attributes is that we must find a way to eradicate disparities in economics. And what that means for me is that we provide opportunities for our historically underutilized businesses. And when we do that, we know what? Our communities grow and they thrive because these businesses hire. They hire in our community. They provide second chances for some of our most vulnerable community members. It is a win-win when we can drive down our tax base, we can put people to work. It is so important that we invest in our historically underutilized businesses. What we know from COVID is that the impact was mighty. And at a time when we saw the PPP not being as equitable as it could have been for all businesses, State of North Carolina, we stepped in and we said, you know, we can't make major chances, but every little bit helps. And so what we did was we put our minds together, and my office rolled out in conjunction with Secretary Michelle Sanders at that time. We rolled out Retool NC, working with collaborative partners that you've talked about here today. The Institute, the North Carolina Small Business Development Fund. We partnered with them to get this money out to the businesses that we knew needed it. It was a grant. We did not need to develop another loan product. We needed grants, and we were able to give out almost 14 million. We have another 6 million that we are in the process of dispersing at this time. We know on the House and the Senate side of the General Assembly, we have $20 million more to allocate to get money out to the businesses throughout this state that need it. This is a really proud moment that I'm about to talk about here. This is a partnership that we are so excited to share today with the RTP, the foundation there. We have won a grant here in North Carolina to open back up what Ms. Harris so treasured. She established the first North Carolina Minority Business Center, and we are bringing that center back to North Carolina. We will be in the Research Triangle Park. We're opening the center on Friday. So if those of you that are with us today, we ask that you join us. We are so excited about the work that can be done to continue to highlight and shine on minority and women-owned businesses whom we know are so valuable to the vibrancy of our communities. So I am looking forward to opening this center and partnering with many of you to grow the capacity, develop these firms. It will be exciting times. And so I am completing my presentation, and we'll be turning it back over to Eric or whomever is next. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Hall. That was a fantastic report. I'm Angelique Stallings with the Greater Durham Chamber of Commerce, and I'm the Vice President of Community Investment here, and I'm so excited to be a part of this program today. We're going to turn it over next to Jonathan Best with Summit Corporation to talk about what they're doing over at Summit. Jonathan?
Yes, thank you, Angelique. And first, I just want to say it's an honor to be able to speak. And I really appreciate the partnership with the Durham Chamber and especially their VP of Community Investment, Angelique Stallings. Summit, we're new to the area. We've been probably with our office here in RDU for about 5 years, but we've been in business since 1961. And our focus, for the people who don't know, we're a regional company. It's by choice. We're Southeast regional based with 6 offices, North Carolina, being where we have 4 offices in Charlotte, Greensboro, Raleigh, Wilmington, 1 in Charleston, South Carolina, 1 in Savannah, Georgia. And I serve as the Project Development and Diversity Manager for the RDU all the way to the coast of Wilmington. And part of our initiatives of commitment to diversity and inclusion on the supplier side is, it starts at the top with our CEO, Arthur Samet. You probably won't find, we have 3 people in our office, in our company in North Carolina committed to diversity. You have me, myself, our director, Johnny Seegers. He handles Greensboro and China. She handles Charlotte. And just some of our initiatives that we use is first, one that's been big. We were able to use it. We were able to use 2 of our initiatives currently with the city of Durham. And I think it was a win for us, but it'll also be a win for the city and also the university. We have our mentor protege program. So we have a firm that we've been growing, and it has to be intended growth, to build their capacity, to build their bonding, to build their management. So many small and minority-owned businesses, they don't have those resources. So what we've done at Salmon is we placed this firm in our office, and they've been working with our Greensboro firm. They've been on about 3 or 4 projects. So we had the Line Park project come through, and I said to our team that said, hey guys, we've been working with Gilders Construction for some years. And I think this project is an ideal one where she can use our back office resources, our pre-construction team, our accounting, our management processes and the systems at Salmon to run the Lime Park Design Build project. So we were successfully able to add her on as a mentor protege, where she'll serve as the project manager. And that's very important for the next step in her career and with her firm, which is, you know, coming in and being able to submit qualifications, interview, and win some of these projects. You know, it's ideal for us that as we're coming out of an interview, we want to see her going in an interview, not with Samet, but on her own. And the second kind of initiative, excuse me, and it's more of a workforce development initiative, was our students in construction. Our students in construction program have been focused on hiring high school students, you know, put them with the traders, put them with Samet, but we've kind of gave a twist to our students in construction program with the Lion Park project being a park and recreation project. We knew that North Carolina Central had a recreation management program that specifically specialized in parks and recreation management. So what we've done was able to collaborate with the university over at Central, and we're going to put one of those students on the project for Lion Park so they can see how our park is programmed, how our park is constructed, and all the community engagement that goes into that. And then another piece that we use very heavily at Samet as far as our DAI initiatives is the second tier and third tier, but we use it in a sense of mentor protege through our first tier subs. So, you know, recently we've matched up some minority electricians, minority plumbers, minority HVAC contractors with majority firms, and they're going to learn how to do the CM at risk process, from the bidding, from the paperwork, from those things that a lot of the firms don't have and have that back office support. And finally, you know, I'll give you guys some upcoming opportunities with Samet that are in the Triangle and specifically in Durham. We have the Novus project, which a lot of people may know as 5 Points, but the name recently changed, which is the 27-story tower that'll be built right off of Main Street. We'll be kicking that off right at the first of the year. We have Lions Park. That is a design build park project for the city of Durham. We have a couple of schools that we've been awarded with, Durham Public Schools. And then in just the RDU area as a whole, we have Park City South that we will be going after. That's a project with Kane Realty. We also have American Tobacco, the multifamily piece that we'll be going after. And then quite frankly, if anyone does industrial development, we have all of the industrial projects that are going on down in Sanford with our real estate development team. So that's my time. I didn't have a presentation like everyone else, but I just wanted to give an update on Samet and some of the things that we're doing in Durham. And I would turn it over to Adem and Beth with Duke and Duke Health.
Great, thank you for that. I'm going to share my screen here. Thanks for the invitation. Really happy to be a part of this program and to talk about some of the projects that we have coming down the pipeline at both Duke University and the health system. So what we'd like to cover today is just a little bit of background on how we're set up organizationally, then talk a little bit about the projects, the master plan for the university, as well as the larger projects that we have coming up. And then I'll turn it over to Beth, who'll talk about some of the health system projects. And then we'll wrap it up by talking about how you can work with Duke moving forward. So even though we're one university, the university is sort of split between the health system and the university. And we have two separate facilities groups that are sort of in charge of delivering projects for those two entities. So you can see the different organizational charts there. And on the health system side, FPDC is the main department that manages and delivers projects. And Beth is representing that group. And for the university, it's facilities management. And we have a newly established planning and design office that I'm director for. So I'll be speaking about the projects that we have coming up. And we have a separate project management department that you can see Paul Manning is director for that. So those are some of the key contact people in those two organizations. This is our master plan that was recently updated, and it's meant to sort of reflect the projects that we know will be coming up for the university. And in terms of sort of reading the graphics there, the buildings that are showing up in beige are existing, and the ones that are showing up in sort of that orangish terracotta color are proposed. So I want to sort of zoom into a couple of those just to talk a little bit about what they are and what the timeline is for them to get built. So several projects were put on hold as a result of COVID, and this is one of those projects. It's for Duke men's and women's basketball, and it would be 2 new buildings that would basically serve for team rooms, training facilities, and they'd be located essentially within the sort of current athletic footprint, pretty close to where Cameron Indoor is currently located. And the contractor for that project is DPR, and the architect is Beck Group. Again, this was put on hold, but we're hoping that, again, coming out of COVID, that this could get released, and there's a lot of subcontracting opportunities for different companies for this project. This is a big one. We also have Lilly Library, another project that was put on hold, but we're hoping can come off of hold soon. Libraries have changed a lot over the past several decades. You know, they used to be places where you would essentially warehouse books. Now they are active and dynamic spaces that really serve as hubs on college campuses, hubs for people to gather and collaborate in. This is the existing library on East Campus, which is the freshman campus. And what we're proposing here is a major renovation of the existing and an addition onto the back of it. The renovation will modernize the existing, and then the addition will bring in additional spaces for programming, common areas, maker space, team rooms, etc. Again, we're wrapping that, going through the design process on that, hoping that we can get the green light to get started sometime soon. The contractor for it is LaChase, and the architect is DSK. Another big project we have coming up is called Garden Gateway. This would essentially be a new front door for Duke Gardens. It would involve a new education and outreach center, so cafe and retail component. This is the existing Doris Duke Center, which would be renovated as a part of this project. And yet again, another project that was put on hold as a result of COVID, but we're optimistic that we can get going on these 3 major projects sometime in the near future. The contractor for that has not been awarded yet, but the architect is due to Payne, located here in Durham. Now I'm going to turn it over to Beth, who will talk about some of the health system projects coming up.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Beth Emerson. I'm the Associate Director of Business and Finance over at FPDC. Thank you for having me today. It's been a few years since Adem and I have presented at this forum, so I don't know if y'all are familiar with the projects that we've had underway for the last few years. Of course, our main campus, or our main locations, our large hospital campus, we've put additions at each location. Probably the one that has gotten the most press has been the behavioral health addition at Duke Regional. Rogers was our contractor there. We have added an 8-story bed tower on our main campus, and we have added a surgical pavilion at our Duke Raleigh campus. Now that we have finished those projects, we've been through a somewhat, it would have been a very busy year, but with COVID, it was almost to the point of harrowing trying to complete these projects and phase the openings so that we could be prepared to serve COVID healthcare needs during the pandemic. Can you hit the button there? We have been participating and supporting and getting involved with the regional growth and expansion and just, it seems, ever expanding research opportunities and developments in downtown Durham. You see there the Duke ID. We have established locations in new and renovated buildings in downtown Durham, big locations in downtown Durham, as well as made some big lease arrangements at the former Parmer campus where Glaxo previously was. And we're right now upfitting those spaces for medical research for our School of Medicine. Click the next one for me, Adem. And then finally, with the population growth in the area and the regional expansion, geographic expansion of our populations, we're looking to the future. And you may have seen in the paper where Duke Health has acquired properties in Mebane, Duke Health Green Level in Wake County, and then a Garner campus in Garner in South Wake County. Next slide, please. So coming off those large hospital additions, now we're decompressing our existing spaces. We have the opportunities to get in there and upgrade our facilities there. Some of them are 40 years old or older. So we're doing some major infrastructure. Down there on the right side is a major substation replacement. And then we're doing a fair number of what we refer to as paint and patch and refresh spaces all over our existing facilities, especially mainly at the main hospitals. Next slide, please. A rendering of what we hope to see in Garner in a couple of years. This is early design phase concept of a medical office building that will go in there, hopefully opening, I want to say in fiscal year 2023, so mid 23. And then sometime down the future, sometime down the road in the future, also an ambulatory surgery center building at that location. Next slide, please. Green level is, from a planner's or constructor's perspective, it's really the most exciting. Duke has purchased over 40 acres in this area and will be established, the hope is to establish a new campus there. So kind of a Duke West, I guess, campus. Right now, the rendering on the right side, if you are ever down in this area off 540, you will see a lot of blue fencing with the Duke Health logo, and the steel has come up out of the ground. We did topping out on the steel about a month ago, but that's the rendering of what the final medical office building will look like there. That site, the map here is a little bit turned, so I hope I'm not disorienting you. So that's green level, the road on the right side. That's actually to the south of this part of the site. And that phase 1A building is the building that's under construction. As you head into the site over the creek and wetlands is where we have the planned hospital. Right now that's approved for 40 inpatient beds and various support functions there. We also have approval on the site for an ambulatory surgery center. We're working on potentially a cancer center as well at that location. So we're really excited to be partnering with Carrie in this development. Those are the big projects on the horizon. This slide just demonstrates the contractors that we are doing business with. You see a lot of overlap between our two groups, Balfour Beatty, CT Wilson, the Beck Group, DPR Construction, Gilbane, LaChase, Riley Contracting, and Riley Lewis, Robbins and Morton, and the list goes on. Go ahead, thanks. You read my mind, Adem. The feedback that we get from our CMs, we really rely on them to, we set goals for local and small business and minority business participation on every large contract that we do. And we really rely on our construction managers to help us break down bid packages to encourage small business participation. So the pathway into those projects for subcontractors is going to be through those construction managers. Some bits of advice they've shared with us and asked us to pass along to the subcontractor community is to just get involved early, make sure your pre-qualifications are approved. You can do that anytime, even though we won't be bidding some of those projects for some time. Call in advance with questions, make sure your quotes are clear, clearly state your assumptions on them. clearly state the types of suppliers that are participating on your projects, and just talk with them. We ask our contractors to be flexible on payment terms so that we can garner the most participation from the local and small and historically underutilized businesses in the area. With that, I will turn that over to Ryan, I guess, for questions.
Yeah, actually, Beth, I'll take it from here.
Sorry about that.
Nope, no problem, no problem. We all work together here, so we are all on the same team. Ryan and I actually are the same person, but you just don't know that we're the same person. But thank you all so much for those wonderful presentations. As you can see, there is a very robust conversation going on over in the chat. So thank you all for all of that engagement over there. I'm so glad that this is being recorded today because there was so much information that was given. I will ask at this time if we can just ask people to turn on your cameras if you're able to do so that we can all kind of seem like we're together in the same room saying hey to each other, the virtual hey. So just to kind of say hi to each other, to see each other. We haven't been able to see each other for such a long time. So this is so great. That we are able to kind of get together here. So I just want to say, again, I'm Angelique Stallings with the Greater Durham Chamber of Commerce. I am new to this role as the Vice President of Community Investment, and I am so honored to be a part of this Med Week. I am honored to be a part of this community, and I would be remiss if I did not at least acknowledge my other team members who are on this call, starting with Jeff Durham, who is our president and CEO of the Greater Durham Chamber of Commerce. We have Ryan Regan, who you all heard from earlier, who is our vice president of economic development. We have Brian Fox, who is our vice president of public policy. I saw Raven Gibbs, I believe, because of how my thing is set up here, who runs our office. And without her, we would not be functioning. So Raven Gibbs, we have Tiffany Mallory on. I saw her turn her camera on. Who has a director of membership services. Everybody knows Tiffany, first of all. So if you haven't gotten an email from Tiffany, I'm telling you, check your spam because there's something in there from her. And of course, Michelle Nelson, who is our director of marketing for the organization. So if anyone has any questions, first of all, if you haven't put them in the chat, if you want to just raise your hand and unmute yourself. For our terrific panel of speakers. Thank you so much to Director Hall and Jonathan from Salmon and Adem and Beth from Duke and Ray, of course, from RTP, from the RTP Foundation. Thank you all so much for your partnership and engagement in putting together this conversation today. We wanted to make sure that in the vein of all of this, that we are presented opportunities that people can walk away with in how to engage with these organizations. So I do want to just, acknowledge some other folks that are on the line. Of course, I see that CJ Broderick, who is the president of the Black Chamber of Commerce, is on. What's up, CJ? What up? I can't see if you're turning your camera or not. I know you have a small baby that you and your wife just had, so you may be doing daddy duty, but just want to thank you so much for uplifting an important conversation about our partnerships. And, many of our institutional partners are led by diverse and, executives and boards. And, as are we, and we have supported and partnered with, your organization. And we want to make sure that we continue to do that and build on that. And of course, we have worked very intentionally to work with El Centro Hispanio and the North Carolina Hispanic Chamber and the Raleigh LGBTQ Chamber and others, that we want to make sure that we're working intentionally for diversity, equity, and inclusion, so that we are doing that. So I want to make sure that we leave room for questions. I don't see anyone with their hand up here, but if you have anything that you wanted to say or anything that we may have missed in the chat, again, I'm glad that it's recorded so you can go back and get this information. I will ask if our partners are willing to put their information in the chat so that you can be contacted in whatever way you deem fit there. And it's so good to see everybody's faces. Look at everybody. This is, and this is right around lunchtime. So everybody has probably just finished up their lunch or were having lunch during this conversation. So it was like a lunch and learn. So we all had lunch together, which was great. And Danya, I don't know what you're talking about in this chat, but Danya, just so y'all know, Danya Perry and I grew up together, and I am so honored to work with him. We are Eastern North Carolina folks from New Bern, North Carolina, and it's so great that our paths are, crossing here, and we drank the red Kool-Aid together, and all of that good stuff that we did growing up, and now we are able to work in concert with each other to really uplift these DEI initiatives. And so I am grateful for you, Sir Perry, and whatever I can do for you, you please let me know. But I will just turn it back over now to Eric to do your closeout. Thank you, Eric, for this opportunity for us to present this fantastic information. And we look forward to working with everyone on this call and beyond to continue the work in Durham that we love. We love Durham so much. We love the region, of course, but Durham is home, and we are looking forward to working with all of you. So thank you. Eric?
Thank you, Angelique. And I would like to echo those sentiments. We really do appreciate the engagement and willingness to share information about the growth and opportunities in our area. We're excited about the opportunity to forge these collaborations, these partnerships that are sustainable. Oftentimes these things happen in these one-off situations, and we don't really have the opportunity to build and forge, really genuine, sustainable, valuable partnerships that bring value for all of us. And I think it's interesting that, we've had a lot of discussion in the chat. I think it's important that we continue to have this dialogue because it helps us forge a path forward that considers inclusivity, and it factors in the considerations that are important to all of us. And so I would like to thank all the panelists again. We really tried to pack a lot of information within an hour, which can be a challenge at times, but I did want to extend our appreciation for all of those who have been willing to participate. Now, in terms of highlights and what's coming, I wanted to highlight the remaining events for this week's Med Week. We've been excited about the participation so far, and we would like to continue with that momentum as we close out the week with our Minority Business Trade Fair, which will be tomorrow afternoon from 5 to 7. And then we'll have our closeout event on Friday at 9 a.m., which is a discussion on the cybersecurity risk and some of the preventive measures we could take to ensure that we protect ourselves. So, as those things become more prevalent in these times, we have mechanisms in place to kind of protect our interests moving forward. So if there's no other comments, I know there's questions that are coming, so I'm glad that people are sharing their information in the chat, because since we don't have time to entertain them all today, hopefully we can convene at a later time and certainly continue to have this discussion. I would like to thank you all again today. We appreciate the involvement and the attendance, and look forward to seeing you at an event the rest of the week. Thank you.
Eric, before we sign off, just one
Yes.
real quick thing. There was no mention of anything in Guilford County or Greensboro, and I'm hoping that that is going to be breached or broached in our next conversations. Everything was focused towards east, and there was nothing going west.
Would any of our panelists who presented today want to speak about any development that's going on beyond these walls? Or, certainly it's a conversation that we can entertain after today. The information for our panelists is going to be provided in the chat, and I'll include mine there as well to help facilitate that conversation. But thank you certainly for expressing that concern for that region as well.
Anything concerning Greensboro and the Triad, you can reach out to me and I can get you with the right people. We're right in the middle of a lot of the development and construction that's going on in the Greensboro and Triad area.
I'm very familiar with Samet. Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
Mm-hmm.
So any other pressing questions before we close for today? Well, if not, I would like to thank everyone again, panelists and attendees alike. We really appreciate the engagement and conversation. Enjoy the rest of your day and look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
Angelique was both student and principal of New Bern High School at the same time.
Listen, I'm gonna send you back.